forgot to press go on the record button, so I might have to do that bit again later. So yeah, it's quite interesting to have a stroll through the GitHub account just to sort of see what things have been picked out by people in testing. Hopefully there's not too much more to go to get to a release candidate stage. It would be really nice if that could happen in this quarter. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I think there's, as Patrick mentioned in his note out, there is a fair push on documentation now that it's pretty near to getting out of beta. So hopefully if people want to contribute, that's a way that they can contribute as well. So to find, can I just sort of have a bit of a show of hands, who's, or sound of voices, who's actually installed a Joomla 4 beta?
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
Yep, just the once.
And just the once for me, Stu.
Okay, and how far back in the process? Like quite a recent one, or?
About 2 or 3 revisions back.
Right, okay.
Joomla conference.
Right.
I started on Alpha 1. I've done a few of those.
So you'll see some improvements, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So as of yesterday, the beta 6 changed to beta 7 in the nightly builds. So you can find that simply by clicking on the link here. It will take you to the nightly builds to help you test. Go to Joomla 4 and you'll see that there is a new beta 7 package, development package. So that's the one we're going to go with tonight. If it's got any bugs in it, we'll soon find out. So I haven't actually tested it myself fully today, but that's the one we're going to have a go with. So essentially I downloaded this to my local device, and then I have created a, just let me go up a level and bring this across. And I've created a folder. Now I have, which I've uploaded this into here in preparation just to save a bit of time. So it's not very exciting watching people download and upload things. So my folder structure I have, just so that you can see where I'm going, public HTML, open 365, I've got a short code, and the demo I'm going to use is a site. I've got a domain called Beer O'Clock. So as a sideline, I brew beer, and so this site is something I've had sort of in the back of my mind to document some of my beer brewing activities. So you'll get to see some of that along the way, and some nice images as well. So underneath there, I've got a little folder structure, which is Joomla Beer O'Clock 01. So it's the first edition. So I've unzipped this file into there. And basically it's, as you would expect, ready to go in simple terms. So the other thing that I also do is I'll just drag my Sql Database Wizard across. So basically I've got a database which I'm going to create with the same name as my folder structure. So I'm going to create a new database, JBOC01. And I'm going to add some users. And create my user. And then I'm going to add, which you'll all be familiar with, I'm sure, how to do this. So I'm not going to teach you how to suck eggs or anything. and I'm going to give all privileges. So question for the masses, does anybody ever do anything other than all privileges when they're creating a database in this way?
No.
Has anybody ever done anything other than all privileges?
Only by accident.
Yeah, so I'm sure that there's probably some options out
Sometimes if you want another system to share the database, you would do that.
Yeah.
Set up different privileges. I've done that.
Okay, so I've got the database all sitting there ready to go. I've got my user and everything ready to rock. So we'll get that out of the way. Yes, I have added the user to the database. And I'll get rid of this just for the moment. And we'll basically fire up the domain name. Well, yeah. If I can spell correctly, that'll help. Oh, yeah, no, I have to do this in incognito. So basically you come to the installer screen. Now the installer screen is much simpler than we've had in Joomla 3. There's less it asks you on the way through. Basically, you can choose currently a choice of UK English or US English. And let's create a couple of things here.
Does it force you to type a secure password?
Yep. And basically the database name, which was over here. And I am going to give it the database which I have told it that I wanted it. And away we go. Password is too short. Oh, okay. You can change that in the any file, I believe, to lesser secure password. But that's it. So that is all there is to it. And as we know, the normal thing to do is to remove the installation folder and complete and open the site. So hopefully, if I can remember my password. We're in. So it's pretty fresh looking. You know, there's been a few sort of tweaks to the interface. Obviously, if you haven't seen it for a while or have not seen Joomla 4 interface at all, it's pretty nice looking. You've got a dashboard screen. As always, the statistics screen, I always click this because it helps boost the numbers. even though it gives me an error, which it's fine. So there's something up with their remote server. I have this on my other Joomla 4 personal blog site as well. So I'm going to submit that now that I know that they haven't fixed it in this beta. So basically, obviously, we've got the this site dashboard. We can create users in here. Same sort of details. It's much fresher looking than we've seen in Joomla 3. You can switch some of the interesting things you can switch on the user is accessibility. So high contrast, monochrome, increased font size, or highlight links. So that's quite nice to sort of help us meet some of the accessibility requirements. And I believe it's on a user by user basis, so you can have some users with that or some without. I'm not sure whether you can set it at a group level, but you can certainly set it at an individual level. So just go back to the home dashboard. So we've got articles again in the same way. We can have opens up our articles, categories, featured articles, and so on. Down the side here, we can have a new article. All the standard stuff that we're used to with the standard default editor here. You know, the images and links, it's a bit prettier than it was, but still very much the same format as we've seen in version 3 and in the early betas. The options tab is split out into various layout and category and author, etc. So you can sort of navigate to where you want, and it shows you the default settings as per the options, global options. Oh, actually, we'll come back to this screen when we actually create an article, but you can actually see the published screen here and the revisions and hits. So it's very similar to what we've seen previously. Again, we can see we can create article categories here. We can use the media manager, which has been completely revised, which is there's a whole lot of functionality in there which I haven't explored in great detail, but I know there's been some quite positive comments about how that works compared to the old media manager. We've got modules which we can create in here, plugins and so on. You've got the standard system screen, so the global configuration here, install of extensions is here, languages, etc., templates, all the bits and pieces, and this new one for mail templates down here as well. So if we just step our way through the global configuration, again, very similar to what we've seen previously. You can change the default editor from Tiny to Code Mirror or no editor at all. And I'm sure that as it becomes out of beta, there'll be options for other editors like JCE and so on. Again, default capture. If you've got a capture plugin enabled, then you can choose that here.
Stuart?
Yeah.
JCE works already on Joomla 4, has done for nearly a year.
Right.
And it's a very nice editor inside the Joomla 4 too.
Okay. So one of the things with, I'm not a big JCE user personally, and you know, people have their own preference. I just like Tiny because it's simple and it suits me. But I understand that JCE is a version of the core behind the Tiny itself, because it's based on Tiny originally, I think.
Got a lot more stuff in it now.
So right,
Lots more.
I'll be interesting to see. So
Well, it's got layers and page builder facilities now in the
Right.
last couple of releases.
right, I think there's been quite an improvement in the Tiny functionality also. So I'm happy to stick with that for the personally, but you know, everyone has their own preference.
It does use Tiny as the core, and he updates it with the latest version of Tiny quite regularly.
Right. Okay, that's good. So again, you know, the usual things we're accustomed to here, the site metadata and what have you, and also you know, you've got your system caching and all that sort of stuff here is all as per normal. Nothing out of the ordinary. Temporary directories and gzip page compression and so on. And I'm not sure what. I haven't looked at the web services much either because I haven't had a need to. So it's a bit more advanced. We might have a look at that in more detail. So whatever this web services provide, I'm not sure at this moment. So obviously you got your logging, your text filters, which you can apply and set blacklists and no HTML and so on. So that's the basics, and there's nothing out of the ordinary in here as far as I can tell. Obviously, we've got the standard components that come with the system: news feeds, smart search, tags, and contacts. The tags was a problem for me in the first beta that I did. I believe they've fixed it, which will be interesting to check. What happened if I saved an article with a tag, it actually wiped out the category in my site. So I decided that I wouldn't use tags until I got that resolved further. So hopefully that's all fixed now. But it was a bit annoying because you put all your articles into categories, and then they would basically one of the things I did was set a category filter on the menu, and it would simply wipe out all the documents links, and so I'd have to reset those after I'd reset any tag on any article. So that was a bit annoying. The smart search in Joomla 3, we've got two types of search: the Finder and the Smart Search. In Joomla 4, there's only the Smart Search, and it takes a bit of getting your head around. If you've not used Smart Search before, it needs to actually create an index of your documents, and once you've set it up, then you can have that automatically index the data. Because the site that I was using in the original beta was quite small, I didn't have a great need for the indexer, so I haven't actually got the search switched on of any consequence on that. So obviously news feeds, so it's pretty easy to get the thing installed, and there's nothing much more to it than you see here actually. But if we wanted to sort of just explore this, let's bang a category in, and we can wander through some of the options. In here, we've got the options for a category layout, and one of the things which has been taken out of the which I discovered when I was doing my original beta site was the category blog layout has been removed and pushed into a template, which is where it should be. So just be aware of some of the changes in that area. So if you wanted a 2-column layout, it doesn't exist. You can set it, but it doesn't work. So it's been removed. In here, we've got the workflow. So you can actually have your documents follow a workflow when you're adding. And I think Tim has done a couple of sessions on workflow, so I won't go into that in great detail, but that's one of the nice features of the new Joomla 4. And again, you know, similar category level metadata comes in here. So again, you know, it's pretty straightforward to navigate. The selection and viewing of images is quite nice within the new interface. So you can see in here you've got quite a nice looking interface. You can create folders, you can move things around, you can bin a whole directory or delete an item from here. You can edit the item on the run. So the media functionality within the interface is quite good. So you can. It would be nice if it actually displayed full screen, but it doesn't.
Future feature.
It does. It does. There's a full screen thing on the image.
No, I mean not the image, but this editor screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So there's no way to make this little box any bigger than it is, the white box here. So you have to scurry down to the bottom or top. So that's you know, it's not ideal. I mean, it's not totally bad, but it would be nice if that was, you know,
Little button you could click there.
correct. But it gives you some quite good, simple functionality and image manipulation. So it is quite cool. It'd be nice to be able to see the entire screen though. That's I guess the thing which is a little bit of a but yeah, crop, resize and rotate.
Can I ask, with the quality of with the quality aspect of the image editing, does that edit the original image, or it creates a duplicate of it, or?
No, I think it actually saves over the top of the existing image, so
Okay.
it doesn't save it as a copy. And I don't think there's a save as button either. So you'd have to save the image and then manipulate it if you wanted to have keep the original. So it's still, you know, it's vastly improved on what we are accustomed to in Joomla 3, but it's got a little bit to go in terms of getting some of that sort of fine functionality to work properly. You know, even you know, just some of the basics like being able to view the image. I think that's quite a key one. So
Matthew, if you want to do back-end work on the images, then JCE Editor, of course, has all that stuff. The
Okay.
file browser's got all that, you know, the save as and rename and a bunch of different effects and so on. So that's come a fair distance too.
Yeah, no, look, I generally, well, actually, I've never edited within the back end of a site before, but I was just curious, just seeing that aspect. I thought, oh, maybe they do what the iPhones are able to do with, you've got your original file and you can edit it, and then you can revert, like, you know, a week later you could revert back to the original photo that you had. I was just curious if it had that sort of functionality, so which would be good for prospective clients to have that fallback.
yeah, I think there's, you know, if you're doing mass image sort of changes, you probably wouldn't use this, but for the odd thing where you just want something quick, so even as a temporary thing, just to sort of tidy an image up, that it's quite functional from that point of view. But if we'll just pick a picture at random, the galaxy here, it does show. Some of the images were not showing when in my original beta. You could select it, but it wouldn't actually display the image, which was, again, you know, just a little thing.
On the image editing, I think they've taken up too much screen estate, the real estate with all the buttons and bits and pieces, where it should be based on what the image is going to look like. And I agree with you. Typo 3 does it very nicely in their editing.
Yeah. So I think the other way to get to the editor, and I'm not sure whether it's any better or has different screen sort of sizing, is through the media manager itself. So that may give us we'll have a look at that in a minute. It's done.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so other than that, it's pretty much as we are accustomed to. You've got your content and tags here. You just basically type in a tag and away you go, and it turns up in the tags. Whether it's a feature article or not. So they've changed all these switches now. I think they've pretty much got all the switches working the right way around and saying what they say, which is good. And away we go. So the other thing, fields and field groups are, as we've seen before, both available on the custom, on the categories and the articles and the users. So again, we've done sessions on those custom fields before, and they work pretty well as before. Site modules, again, very similar to what we've seen before. The layout's a little bit nicer, but you know, there's a bit of clarity with the statuses and things like that. But it's pretty easy to make changes, and you're right.
Keeps hanging up. Dom keeps hanging up.
Oh, right.
For an answer. It's a
Minus.
second time.
It's probably pocket dialing. So yeah, again, nothing too revolutionary in here. It's all what we're used to. Just looks a little bit nicer. And to create to create a module, basically you just hit the plus key. So it's modules. Hit the plus key, and you can search for the type of module you want to build. Gives you a bit of a description, which is a bit more friendly than in the old days. So if we just click that, and it's the latest. Articles to display, show or hide features, only show featured, all the usual things, sort orders, and filtered by author. So you can actually set those up in categories by a module list, by an article list, by author, and a module. And again, you know, all the sort of things we are accustomed to seeing. So nothing revolutionary in there. Nothing too exciting in the site modules. And again, the administrator modules is very similar. We can create one of the nice things is the sample data. So you actually can install sample data as well. And away it goes. So I haven't done that, but I believe that works quite effectively. So the media manager directly, rather than going through an article or a category, basically we can upload a file or set of pictures. If I find an image. And you can download that from the yeah. So all of these little things are available.
Can you drag it into a folder?
I was just going to show you. No. I can't move it.
What's that called? Oh, you can read it. Okay.
You can't drag it, which is a bit annoying.
Yeah, that would be nice. Future update.
Yeah, and again, when you look at that in full size, it drops off the bottom, and there's no scroll bars, so you can't get down to the bottom. It's a very tall image. It's an image taken that way on my phone rather than this one, which if I upload another one.
Froth one's landscape.
Yeah, the froth one's landscape. Just it's not very exciting, but anytime. Yeah, so So this is it. How do I make that one pop up by itself? Double click. Yeah, so there you can see the full image, whereas the tall image you can't see it in the full editor. So if I was to edit this one and change its size, that's probably why. I'll make it
Looks like there's no way to constrain the ratio.
That's what I'm thinking. Actually, it's in the crop. Okay, well that's at least consistent. That's quite good. So the resize screen doesn't have a ratio, but the crop screen does.
Oh, you would have thought that, yeah, you maintain your ratio, whatever the thing is, didn't it?
Mm. So yeah, that's a bit weird, but anyway, so we save and close that. Still does the same as before.
Even though it's smaller, it's still going to be.
I'll make it really small.
Fix it. Yeah, I'll fix it. Let's keep in the aspect ratio. Is it? Or is it? No.
Yeah, it is.
Or is it looking squashed?
No, it's moving the 78.
That was keeping the ratio, but as soon as you touch the second one, the height jumped back again.
Okay, I'll save that.
Let's just fix it again.
You want to maintain ratio, it looks like you just grab the one you want to change.
Yeah.
Don't touch the other.
So it looks like you're making your beer in your swimming pool.
Well, actually, there's a bit of a story. I make the beer by the swimming pool because that's quite nice. You can do that in Queensland, and it's nice. It's nice to look out at the swimming pool. And I will just find another picture actually because that will explain quite a bit more. If I can, just bear with me.
All them Melbourneites, I think he's taking the piss out of us.
So somewhere in here. That's MP4, so we don't need that. This one will do. It's always good to have friends when you're brewing beer to drink the previous batch.
Where's your co-brew? Oh, there they are. Joomla heroes.
Joomla heroes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's a flash bloody cooker. Bloody hell.
it's not bad. It does 40 liters, so I can do 30 bottles, 750ml bottles in a batch, 23 liters. And when the cooling water goes through the final wort, I actually take it from the hose and then put the exit pipe into the pool, so the pool gets the top of the water on the way through. So that's what
Unreal.
we do by the pool.
Nice.
But yeah, it's not a bad place to brew. So that's Don from the Joomla user group and Greg. That was on
New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve.
Stuart, how long does that beer last for?
What was that?
How long does the beer last for?
Well, I need to drink faster because I've got a bit of a problem actually. My my caps are all splitting with the pressure. So,
Oh.
so
Too much sugar.
What's that?
Too much sugar.
Or is it humidity and heat?
No, it's the pressure in the bottle. So it splits the plastic caps actually. So along the seam. So I've had to replace a few. So they get an X mark on them. But I just need to drink a bit faster.
Yeah.
So
Up you go.
To bring some tonight?
What
No,
kind
I
of Kiwi are you? What kind of,
He
hold up
didn't
your
bring
flag.
any.
Hold up your flag.
it's terrible.
He brought a half
But
dozen.
yeah, so that's the media thing. Again, you know, this would be nice if you could just drag
Website.
those into a new folder, but you can't. So as far as I can tell. And you've obviously got the general options of what type of files you're allowed to upload, etc. So you can filter those out. Maximum size, the image path, all the usuals.
Oh, can we link to like AWS now instead?
No, not directly.
SVG.
Oh, it's AWS.
Stuart, could you go back to that last page for me quickly? Sorry.
Yeah, I can go slowly as well.
I just find that it's a little bit repetitive, obviously, there, how you see we're in the media window and then you've got another keyline box with the word media again. It just seems to take up a little bit more unnecessary canvas space within
this here and this here and
yeah.
yeah.
What's,
Yeah, I think you're right. Same, it's fairly consistent across the whole application. I think
it just seems a little unnecessary in the sense of like you want to maximize visually how it is, but the repetition, it does seem to take up. What does that look like? 40 pixels left and right and top and bottom, or?
Yeah, well, I guess that's right, and that's something that could result in another field being shown at the bottom of your screen. But
Yeah, because when you're on a smaller screen, that's
yeah,
They could have done that with a slight change in background, you know.
that's
Yeah,
right.
I agree with you, Matty.
Well,
that'd be a burst, isn't it, John?
No.
I'm a border there, so I'm not really going to gain anything.
Well, even if does it need the border?
No,
you know,
it doesn't need the word media there either.
So if you get rid of that media and the
And the
border,
border.
then you've got
And-
more real
yeah.
estate.
Yep.
And I think that's a valid, you know, that would be worth pushing for because it'll be a general thing across all screens.
If
So,
you go up and look at cache, what's that got in it? Same thing.
Same thing. They're all the same. So it's a system-wide.
Oh, there you go. That sucks.
Let's just stay there.
That's ridiculous.
It'd probably be an easy fix, though, wouldn't it? If it's style based, so if you remove that element, then one
You
would
would
think.
think like, so here, just looking at the difference in this contacts one, which no one ever uses, but basically the permissions tab has the one box surrounding all of the things related to that. The integration tab doesn't have the box around the whole thing.
Well,
It's got it around each individual, which again seems a bit.
Oh, maybe that's what they're doing.
You can see where it's working in this environment on this integration tab. It's important that it's there.
Correct.
Whereas, like permissions, it's very unnecessary because it's only covering that one area, which is obviously the permissions. Whereas integration, there's multiple sections, so I think it's not as clear cut as cutting something like that out anymore. Knowing that that's how it's being used.
Yeah, I think it is a bit surplus though, you know, where there's only a single a single sort of box of a selection. So yeah, it would be worth
Worth being a condition put in.
yeah. Well, I'd say it'd be worth discussing with someone who can put it forward in the GitHub as a they may have some valid reasoning that they've done it that way, and it may be hard to change. But if it gives us more screen real estate, well, I'd be all for that. So
Yeah.
so, but yeah. But it's all those little things that you find as you sort of poke around, you know.
If you want more space, if you want it to stretch out, you can always toggle the menu, or toggle the admin menu over the left here, where it says that's it.
Correct. Doesn't give you too much more space downways.
I think it's more of the vertical, if anything, that you miss out on here, because you see visually left to right, it's got that space, but that there's just that element of space, obviously, that just feels wasted and not maximised to its full potential. Whereas the vertical aspect, padding around that, it's where you lose out with this issue.
Yeah.
I'm not a coder, but I don't know how easy. I kind of think if you can imagine it, I'm sure it can be done.
Yeah, I suspect that won't be high on their list of priorities before getting it out in the market, but it would be something long term that would be worth putting forward, because it is a fairly obvious, space waste.
Yeah.
Really.
Over a few months, I've got the distinct feeling from the Joomla 4 designs and layouts that every time they went to do a new layout, the first question they asked themselves was, how's this going to look on a mobile phone? And if you look at the panels, if you look at the way they're laid out and the way the flow's defined across the screen, that field layout for the detailed panel is going to work best on a phone. And basically, you'd find that in a lot of different places around the admin console, I would think.
Yeah. So here's a cut down.
And there's tablets as well. I mean, you've got to target those devices first now, because they're a majority of the market now.
Yeah, I just think it's still quite repetitive, having that this one category and category.
Correct. I agree.
And I think the key line, I don't think it doesn't add any value aesthetically or functionality wise in this regard. I think it's more of a case of where it's a singular item under one of those administration sections. It works. It does. It's not needed. When you've got this integration section, obviously you do need to have something there, but I think the key line doesn't need it. I think it's a matter of styling the title newsfeed, routing, custom fields a little bit more.
Yeah.
More than adding a key line.
And I don't believe, those three things need to have their own separate box. It would be better if it was a label,
True.
rather than necessarily, because if they've only got one option each.
Well, what happens if you click one of those things? You're going to get more field. You're going to get detail fields behind some of those. Not that guy, maybe, but any of the others? No?
No.
Okay.
So it's so there's a few sort of quirky things, I guess, and the thing is, until you sort of start poking around, and one of the reasons that I did the my blog, because it was a real thing, and didn't actually matter if it broke so much, was to sort of get familiar with some of the quirky things early on, and some of them have definitely been improved. Like the tags was a bit of a nightmare.
Well, there's you could argue the toss in some of those areas, like RSS isn't the only news feed that's available. So, you know, if you had other news feeds, like an Atom feed, for instance, you might want to add your auction into that group. So
That's
I
right.
could
But
see.
it'd be easy enough to put news feeds dash RSS, news feeds dash whatever as a label, wouldn't it? Sure.
Well, that'd be right, but you'd add, you know, the second field, the second option within the group. So in some of those areas, you could argue about their decisions in detail. It's not just the aesthetics.
Hmm.
But yeah, but aside from that, there's not too much more in the core. It is so easy to install it. I think, you know, that's the nice thing about it. It's ready to rock fairly quickly.
Yeah, a lot more WordPressy.
Oh, I was nearly going to say that.
Yeah.
Well, the editor is. What does it look like on the front?
It looks very unexciting on the front.
Well, you got to build your site, would you?
No, just seeing what the raw thing looked like. That was all.
It's pretty basic. So one of the things in the original, so if I just bring up my, one of my, for those of you who don't know, I've built this blog just to keep track of my Parkinson's. And so one of the things I did was change the color of the band, which was harder than it looked actually. That it was all in a complicated area, and I can't even remember, but it was not easy to change that, and to get that to graduate was a bit tricky. So this whole site, the only thing that I've done custom is I got sick of typing in how many days since I've been diagnosed, so I just created a little module that just sits there at the top, so I can keep track of how many days and so on. It just calculates out automatically. But that's the only custom thing in the whole site. Everything else is core Joomla beta 4, Joomla 4 beta 3, I think. I haven't updated it since.
Yeah. Is there no custom CSS file?
Okay, so let's go back.
Yeah, sure there is. Sure there is.
No, that was one of our questions earlier, wasn't it? Changed back to the user.css now?
That's right, because in the documentation original didn't match the where's the templates? Hang on.
The one problem I see of that, we've just spent all of version 3 getting everyone to use custom CSS, including template manufacturers, and now we've gone backwards to what we started with.
Where are we going? I can't even find the templates now.
Under system. Everything's in system.
It's not templates, that's right. It's not on a short menu, which would be nice if they actually had this folding out like the others, but it doesn't.
Maybe too many.
So I think from memory, I had to do a bit, the custom.css or user.css didn't override the way it was supposed to. So I had to sort of hack the core template in this case here to get this to work. Even though I followed the instructions, it wasn't going to play the game. But that's the plain vanilla as it looks out of the box. And I've noticed this new web authentication, which I don't know anything about. So
there's a good article from Akiba on that.
Right.
if it's anything, if it's a big advancement on his login secure two-factor authentication, that'd be good.
So that is all I wanted to show, but if anybody's got any questions, I basically am happy to poke around as far as we can and see if we can identify anything. But it's pretty simple. It's got, you know, not too much change in some areas, but some nice changes in others. So
Just putting a link up to that article on the two-factor authentication, wordless authentication for Joomla.
get the chat window. There we go. Oh, mail templates. Right. If I'd been watching the chat, I'd have been keeping myself organised here. So let me just this link from John. Yeah, so I know a lot of people use password managers. I don't. So I have a mechanism for working out my passwords, and so I don't actually write them down very often. So I'm not familiar with this web authentication. And Carly wanted to talk about mail templates. So obviously they've sort of enhanced this area somewhat, and you can have different templates for different different purposes. So if somebody requests the privacy of export of information, you can see there's available tags. It's very point and shoot. So you can change those all quite quickly. Was there anything? Was the one when they register? Okay. New account notification to the user. Self-activation. Is that what you want? Self-activation. So it's not got a very complicated interface either. It's fairly simplistic, but basically it just uses the tags that you can see down the side. Yeah, it's pretty neat. So I'll just, sorry, I missed having the chat window open, so I'll just scroll up and see if there's anything else. David also wanted to look at mail templates. All right. So anyone else got anything else they want to see quickly or slowly?
I'm pretty good. I think I'll have another play with it now. It's the
Yeah.
best idea.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Just download it. It's like it's a nothing thing to set up and just have a bit of a poke around. And you know, there's obviously areas that that are useful to individuals that you're that you want to have a look at. So that was the install. In case you missed it, I installed the sample blog data. So I'll refresh this so we should see something a bit more exciting. There you go. Look at that.
Nice.
I need a good designer there, Matty.
Happy to help if I can.
So yeah, so there's obviously a few things that I've included in that sample data, and that was basically on the system page, on the home dashboard rather, and you can also set up multi-language as well.
I assume that's easy to hide as well, Stuart.
Each of these,
Yeah.
yeah, basically unpublish.
All right.
So yeah, they're quite quick, and you can move these around, I believe. My cards on, or maybe not.
Can they do they use ACL?
Yeah, you'd think they would.
Yeah, pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Easy.
Yep. I thought you could move these, but maybe you just have to move them in the modules. Wherever they are.
Home.
But yeah, it's admin modules. Site information, bring them back to life. Site information we want to be
Oh, it's changed now.
site information. Yeah, so there you go. Let's just moved it around. It's not where I expected it was going to be, but that's quite all right. It did definitely move it up to the top of the list. Any other further questions? Hang on, we've got something more here. Maybe there's an update. You can visit the updated files tab. Where was that, Carly?
Read the
Update
next
within the system.
option, message I wrote. You showed us in system templates when you were looking at the CSS files.
Oh, okay. So back over at
Right.
Yeah, system.
templates, site templates. Updated files, yeah, sorry, yeah.
I just remember it from one of George's talks that he mentioned if something, because I do a lot of template overrides and module overrides and component view overrides, and if an extension or template's updated and one of the files that I've overridden has changed, it will let me know, because my override that I've created will now could potentially be way out of date and broken. So that gives me the opportunity to go back, create a new override and update it with whatever changes I made. So it's just nice to be given that without me having to go back manually and see the dates modified on a file and see if my override's been affected.
You know if it's on every type of file?
No, that's just telling me it will recognize, you know, in your template, how you have that HTML folder where you store all your overrides.
Yeah.
I would hope that Joomla's going through that to see what you've done, and then we'll go and check whatever you've got that is matching that in the component. I don't know. I can't wait. If it does the awesome things I'm hoping it does, that's really good.
Oh, I wouldn't be counting on that in the standard system. A number of template vendors did that, but it's a bit of a trick, and you've got to have a standard set of originals to compare against.
Yeah.
So that'd be hard if you got templates from any number of different vendors and you want to do the same trick. That might be a bit much.
That's where standards come in, and that's why I think it's silly that after pushing that all the template vendors use custom CSS for overrides, for instance, for the CSS, we're now gone back to user.css.
Is there no custom CSS in the CSS file?
No, you now use user.css like you used to before we had custom.css.
Yeah. What's in the CSS files folder? Nothing.
Well, you're not going to have user or custom there unless you add it.
Oh, that's right. But, you know, you would have thought they would have had a...
But if you use custom, it won't work, or at least it didn't last time Stuart was playing with it and had to look up documentation and found it to be user.
Yeah. Well, I think that's convention more than,
You can just
more than a
change it.
standard.
Well, yeah, my point was, but they had a big push through free so that we all were on the same page. All template manufacturers use custom.css, and there's only one or two that didn't comply. And you were given that file and you could use custom.css and automatically work. But now we've gone back. I'm not worried whether it was user.css or custom.css. The point is that we pushed for that all the way through free for the last 6-7 years and so on to everyone to comply, and now we've gone backwards in a standard.
You would have thought they'd have all this other stuff in there, and then you have a blank custom CSS file that you can just go straight to and do what you need to do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The point is you can add, if you're in free, for instance, you add custom.css and you put your own CSS.
Yeah.
And it automatically gets used as an override. But now if you put custom.css, it won't be found. You have to use user.css like you did back in 2/3.
What's your source for that, Jeff? Where does it say that? Is that in Joomla standard docs?
That was a lot of write-up and talk on boards and that about standardizing from the early days.
Mm.
And it was agreed that custom.css would be the standardization to be adopted. And that's why if you look at a lot of templates from template manufacturers and that now, you'll see they all follow the custom.css support.
Yep.
But my point is we've gone backward. Why did we bother standardizing and pushing a standard, whatever that standard is, if we're going to change it again now?
Yeah, I know Typo 3's got a custom CSS. You can do what you like with it. But,
yeah, the point is that was a standard. It was a lot of talk among a lot of template creators and everybody else out there about having a standard. Yes, we'll follow the standard and so on.
Maybe they're going down Microsoft's path. There's so many standards. Let's create our own.
Just for what it's worth, if you have a look in Protostar that ships with 3, it actually looks for user.css.
That's true.
No.
Protostar was the thing that broke it, but not many people use Protostar, and I think they just left it.
Well, but it's been shipping with 3 for a very long time. So I'm just saying it's not necessarily knew with 4, they broke it in 3, if that's the issue.
Oh, well, with that, yes, I get what you're saying. But the thing is, do we adopt this to, as this is new now, do we adopt to use user.css now? Or do we hope that everyone stays with the custom.css as in template manufacturers and so on?
Well, yeah, that depends on the template framework. It's template dependent. You know, the name's not in a standard anywhere. Most of them have stuck to. I'm looking at an article on Joomshaper here that says Joomla for Cassiopeia template customization tips. And it says use custom.css. But that applies to their framework. That applies to Joomshaper templates. So they've just, you know, it's a convention. It's I don't know that it's necessary.
Hang on, what did you say?
written
Use
on
it in,
stone.
what are you talking about? Use it in Cassiopeia, or the template we're looking
Yes,
at? Of your,
yeah, that's what it says.
well, what I'm saying is that won't
I'll
work.
post the link.
Yeah, it won't work. That's
That
right.
won't work, is what I'm saying.
Unless you
Well,
want
it
to put the
will for
index file.
Joomshaper. It will for Joomshaper templates. Doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, that's what I'm
for-
saying. I've just wondered why you mentioned Cassiopeia, because that's not their,
Okay.
that's not
All right,
their,
so-
Anyway, that's another thing to put the hands up and say, look what we haven't found. Yeah. Anyway,
probably
there
a question we should have asked earlier. In the early days, I didn't worry about it because I thought, oh, well, they're just running with what they're running. And it's one of those things they'll fix up along the way as we get closer to the release. So yes,
Oh,
now is the
okay.
time to, I guess, mention this and say, guys, which way are we going? And what about the template manufacturers? You know, as you mentioned, 4 frameworks and things, what are they going to support? Are they going to rewrite as they update their frameworks, or what happens? And yes, it's just one small thing out of many, but I'm big for standards. If we push for a standard, I think it should be adhered to across the board. Otherwise,
See,
it's not a standard.
all it is it just looks for
Yeah, I know what it does, but the
Yeah.
point is, from an end user's point of view, when you're writing custom code, you need to know what one you're going to put in there to be found.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right.
That's right. But I've
Just
used
a little link looking for the folder.
I've used Joomla templates on Joomla 4 for quite a while. They were one of the first to get on board this, and they brought out a version of their framework, and they're still using custom.css.
You know, they probably,
I'm not sure
probably
where
will,
the
because
user.css thing has come from.
they
Where's that
probably
stand?
will, because they're not going to probably change their frameworks any more than they have to. So as the frameworks come across to support version 4, they're going to probably still support, I guess, custom.css. That would seem sensible to me, unless someone said, well, now this is a standard and you need to comply. But then again, I don't know, like you said, there's been no hard written standard. It was just a standard that was mentioned in the early days with developers and the template manufacturers, that we have a standard across the board.
Yeah, so the other thing too is if you're upgrading a site from 3 to 4 and you're using a custom CSS, you won't be able to do it if you haven't got it here.
Well, in this,
Yeah,
the way it is, like you mentioned, the template manufacturer, if you're using a template from a template manufacturer, which I don't do personally, or most of the time I don't do. So to me, it's an issue, because what I've been doing, well, will it not work? Won't work, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think there's quite a long way to go before you would do an upgrade from 3 point anything to 4 point anything. You know, I think from what I've done with my blog, it's fine as a new site. Like, it was easy to get up and running, and it's really, you know, quite simple and easy to navigate and all that sort of stuff. But I would be hesitant about planning any upgrades for some time, even after, you know, if we're talking, if they get the post beta release candidates out in the next 3 months, I think we'll be lucky. if they get the actual release of 4.0 proper out in the market by September, we'll be lucky, I think, personally, going
Yeah.
on. So, planning any upgrades from a version 3, unless you're doing a re-implementation, I think you'd be this time next year at the earliest anyway.
Well, I'm going to be trying to do Joomla 4 upgrades as soon as UTheme Pro comes out on it. As soon as I can get my hands on that thing on Joomla 4.
Yeah, and I think
that'll be the break point for me.
I hope you had better luck than me with the Quicks, the first one they sent out for 4.
Yeah.
That was the break point for me. It left me broken.
Okay.
I've gone backwards again. So.
A broken man.
That's it. That's when I thought I'd play with 4, and this is a good time to play with it. No, it's not.
Yeah. So, I think if you've got a site which is not critical, it's good to get your hands dirty, definitely, because you'll start to know the sort of the lay of the land and things which are going to work and things which are not going to work in your own environment, because everyone does everything slightly differently. I mean, that's the way we all work. So I would certainly recommend having a crack as soon as possible with something non-critical to get your teeth into it.
I guess the advantage, the more of us that are having a crack at it and don't like certain things, we can start talking about them in forums and that as well before they're locked in. It was interesting what Carly pointed out there, where it's for the standards, that maybe that's why they've done the field sets the way they have. For those who heard that.
Hang on. Nicola's just asked me to go into an article, so let's just do that.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Oh, yeah, you were talking about page building functions. Oh, no, that was in JCE, wasn't it?
Yeah, so basically it comes with TinyMC as the default.
3 little dots at the very end, that should open up the kitchen sink. There you go.
What does the CMS content button do?
It does this.
Ah,
So we can basically
that's a handy feature.
sling an article in there. Just as a link.
Yeah, in the bottom.
Yeah, just puts it in as a link. Doesn't embed the whole article.
Hello?
Ah,
You told me about an hour.
I'm not doing that in an article. But yeah.
I've been summoned to dinner, so I'm off, guys. Thank you very much for this, Stuart.
No worries, Jeff.
And I'll have to get on those forums tomorrow while it's fresh.
Okay, it's user.css. That is what is wanted. So it wants to be a user.css in the CSS folder of the template. That's the new default.
Yeah, at least for this, that's right. What about for
Cassiopeia? Yes.
Yeah, for Cassiopeia, that's right. But as someone pointed out, that was also the prototype was exactly the same.
Okay.
Well, it never followed the standard. No one bothered checking it, probably because no one ever used it.
Oh, I do.
You just didn't use your custom.css thing.
Well, it did, but now it'll just have a different name, I guess. But yeah, okay.
Very good.
All right, guys. See you. Bye.
Yeah. Well, I'm off as well.
See you later.
See you all.
Thank you, Stuart.
That's
Thank
all right.
you,
It was just an early, easy one to start the year off with, so that we didn't get past January without actually having something to say. So, yeah, if you want to have a crack, get on it.
Thanks very much, Stuart. It was really good.
No problem. Cheers.
Thank you.